What's up, everybody? Wherever you may be in life's journey, I'm so glad that you are here and that I get to be here with you. This Sunday's gospel, there's a couple of readings depending on which Mass you go to. I'm going to do a reflection on the gospel involving the scrutiny, which comes from John chapter 9, the story of the man born blind who gets healed by Jesus and then who essentially is put on trial for the healing. And there's a lot of lessons from this scripture reading. In fact, I could spend a whole retreat weekend talking about the man born blind, the nameless man born blind, Jesus' healing of him, the reaction of the blind man's parents, the reaction of the religious elite, and the reaction of even the blind man himself to the reality of being given sight. But today, let's just take a small but mighty theme that originates from this gospel passage, because there's a pivotal question that shapes the course of every human person's life that is grappled with in this gospel passage. And that's the simple question of, are my weaknesses and limitations sources of shame to be hidden and ignored, or are they gifts given to me by God that are not to be wasted? The religious leaders of Jesus' time, they viewed weakness and limitations as access of God's justice and punishment, his just punishment, if you will. And they viewed the blindness of this man as the result of generational sin, as the just infliction of a generation, of a human being, because of generational sin, in particular because of the sin of parents. So something like blindness was conceived of as a source of eternal shame. It was a burden for this individual to carry for the entirety of his life because of the sins of his parents. But that's not actually how Jesus looks at limitations. That's not how Jesus looks at blindness. That's not how Jesus looks at our shortcomings and our weaknesses. Jesus looked at our shortcomings and our weaknesses as avenues for deeper and higher things. Like our pain is a window for love to enter into. Our shortcomings exposed are actual doors for God's glory and God's greatness to be revealed. Our shortcomings are opportunities for us to find our highest potential, not to be blocked from our highest potential. So often we can look at our shortcomings, we can look at our weaknesses, we can look at our flaws and be like, those are obstacles, those are problems, those are actual problems preventing me from being who I could be and reaching my highest potential. And God is like, no, no, that's not actually what they are. They are the very means. They are the bridge that's going to get you from where you are today to where you could be. There was I was giving a talk this past week, and it was an all day thing. It was actually a seminar for teachers and people in school systems, like first responders and things like that. And there's this woman who came up to me, and she poured her whole heart out, and she was very emotional, and she was revealing to me a source of her own pain and her own shortcomings and her own difficulties. And at the end of it, I was like, would you like a hug? And she said, no, I do not want a hug, because I don't want my colleagues to see that I was in a state of suffering and weakness. It was a protective thing. She waited and waited, standing there with me, not actually talking until the emotion had passed, so that she could return back to her seat as if she was just talking to me about some sort of piece of content and not actually having a deeply emotional, intimate connection with me over this great pain point of hers. There was a desire to hide her pain, to hide her shortcomings, to hide her blemish. And I could tell watching this woman the rest of the day how she was shackled and chained by her weakness, and how it wasn't actually an avenue for her to experience and to share the glory of God. But that is precisely what our weaknesses are. So this week, I want you to spend a little bit of time and reflect heading into Mass this weekend. Are my weaknesses and limitations sources of shame to be hidden and ignored, or are they gifts given to me by God that are not to be wasted? May God bless you, and may you always remember you are made to do hard things.